to hear me. If you can hear me, please go ahead and say hello to each other. I see that Robin has already said a good evening. Hi, Robin. I'm happy you're here. And I see a lot of other people are starting to jump on. Okay, so I was trying to connect and it gave me a no connection error. I was like, no. So here I am. All right, everybody, we are continuing today. My name's Yvonne, for those of you who are new, and we are continuing with our Krabby Patty series. And so I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen really quick, tell you the supplies we're using, and give you an update on where we're going. Okay, so let me just show you what I've got here. All right, so there's my desktop. You can find all of the projects at www.jellyrollclub.com. This is the website. You can see there are so many projects on this page. We have the Crossroads quilt. We have the Hip to Be Square. We have Stepping Stones. We have Fruit of the Spirit, the Pillow of the Month, Mystery Sampler that we did, the Mystery Stars. We have My Sister's Quilt and all of these other patterns over here on the side, and they're all free for you to use. So if you have a project that you want to work on, there's plenty to find on my website. All right, so let's look at what we've got. So we're working on this ocean-inspired quilt. I love the ocean. I just got back with my grandkids from the beach, and we are continuing. So we've already finished this middle part, right? So we built the center, and you can see it right behind me. So if you notice, I've already finished, and so I have a unit now that measures 40.5 inches across from one side to the other. So in the last 2 episodes, I showed you how to build the compensating geese that fly around, and I also showed you how to build your middle with curvy piecing. And now we're going to do the easy and fun stuff. So we're going to work on the turtle today, and I hope that you guys will like this little guy. So we're working on Taylor the turtle. So let me go ahead and show you what I have. So there it is. All you have to do is click on the handout. When you get there, you can see the calendar. You don't need a whole lot, so you need the July 13th, month 3, which is today. And then all you need is the one little turtle. Now the supplies for this guy is 10.5 inches tall, the unit is, by 40.5 inches. So mine is the full width of my center panels with those flying geese. For the dark shell, I needed a 7-inch square of medium green. I need a little few scraps for my shell spots. I can make those different colors. A small scrap of white and black for the eye. If you don't want to do a black scrap, you can also use a pigment pen and then use some embroidery. So I'm going to talk about that today. And then if you're using fusible interfacing for the applique, you're going to need a 10 by 12 inch piece. All right, so let me show you what I've got here. And let me show you where I've been. All right, 2 cameras. Can you see my hands? All right, so this is little Taylor the turtle, and you're going to need 2 turtles if you want to add 2 turtles to your project. If you look at the pattern that's on the website, you can see, and I'm just going to share my screen real quick, you can see that I have a turtle at the bottom. But if you notice, there's only 3 in the image because I didn't feel like shrinking them. I wanted you to see them. So I'm going to add a turtle to the bottom and a turtle to the top because I have 40 inches of space and I don't want to leave a bunch of empty dead space. So I can add 2 turtles, which is what I'm going to do. And I want my turtles to go different directions. Okay. And so I have my hands so you can see. And so this is what I did. So the first thing that I did is I just used my Pellon 805 and I used a light box. And this is what I use. It's Wonder Under ultralight interfacing, but it's not the kind of interfacing that most people assume. It doesn't have like it has paper, and so it's got a dull paper on one side and then like a bumpy glue on the other. And so this is what I use, and then I just lay it on there just like I always do, and I trace. And so when you open that, you're just going to trace your pieces. And you can see through most of these. So if you lay them like this, you can really see right through there. And then you trace on the paper side. And whenever you trace, remember that you get a mirror image. If you want your turtle to be mirrored, you're going to flip that over, put it on a light box, and then you're going to draw. So I went ahead and I did that. I drew my little turtle on all of this. And so what I did is I went ahead and drew that, ironed it on and then ironed it on to the back of my fabric. And now I have all my pieces ready to go. Okay. And I did that twice. So I did tailor the turtle once and I did tailor the turtle twice. And you can tell they're kind of mirror image. They even mirror imaged on the fabric. I used a little bit of green ombre. All right. So these are the shells. These are the heads. You can see they go different directions, right, to the left and to the right, because they're mirror image. And then these are all the little spots in the fins. So now I'm ready to start assembling my turtle. Okay. And so what I will do is I will start heating up my iron, and I need 2 pieces of fabric. I need this for the top of my quilt, and this is 10.5 inches tall. And I've left it width of fabric because I need it to be at least 40 inches. And what I don't want is for my piece to be too short. Now, this is the same fabric. I'm going to show you really quick what's behind me. It's the same fabric that I used on the sides. It just looks a little bit, the color looks a little bit weird on this camera. I'm not sure why. But it's like an aqua, and it's the same color. So you can see, kind of looks like snakeskin, but when you stand from a distance, it looks like water. So this is a batik by Hoffman. All right, so let me go ahead and show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it exactly in half because I'm going to start building my turtle from the center out. And so I'm just going to leave this, and like I said, it's 10.5 inches tall. And I am going to press it really well. This batik has already been washed, and it just needs a good press, and it has a little bit of starch on it. All right. And so there's one. And then I'm just going to measure it to make sure it's measuring the way I want. And so I'm going to go here. Yep, and it's at least 10.5 inches to there, so that's good. And this is 10.5 inches, so that's what I want. So what I'm going to do is, now that I have folded it in half, I'm going to take this, and this is going to be my center line. So I'm going to just put a deep crease there. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to work from the center out to make sure that I have enough space for my little turtle. All right, so this piece is going to go on the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and start building my little turtle guy. And so I just need to make sure that I take my ruler and I kind of mark the center point. So anytime I'm adding any kind of applique, I'm going to mark the center point. So I know that this is 10.5 inches this way. And so then I know that I want to have about 10.5 inches the other way. And so let me grab this. And so there's 10.5 inches there, right? And then this is 10.5 inches here. And so I'm just going to give it a tiny little mark. And I can erase this later, but I'm just going to take a little friction dot and I'm going to put a tiny spot there just so that I know where that goes. And you have to be careful with this stuff because it can leave the haloing. So I'm just going to leave a tiny little dot of this, little tiny dot, just a reference point for me. You can also use colored pencil like this that has wax. Because it will erase as well, and then the heat from your iron will burn it off. So if you want to, you can use like a colored pencil like this just to kind of mark, because those marks always go away. And these are washable. So now that I've marked the spot where I want my little turtle, I see the space that I have to work with, right? I have from here to here. And so I'm going to start by setting up my shell. And I want Taylor the turtle to be swimming upward on this side. Now on the top of my quilt, I'm going to have him going the opposite direction. And this has this little blue edge. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start pulling the paper backing off. And so I'm just going to score it. And I've pressed this with a hot, dry iron, no steam at all. And I can start laying out my turtle. He's going to need a little bottom underneath his fin to kind of show off his fin a little bit. And then this goes under here. And it goes underneath his lower shell. And then I'm going to need a fin that goes this direction. Now, if you notice, this fin is hard to see, but what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to use a green outline. And so when I do that lime green outline thread, you won't be able to, you'll be able to see the fin and it won't disappear. And this little fin just goes right here. I could switch that to a different color, but I wanted it to kind of be a subtle little fin down there at the bottom. And so I'm going to lay that there. I'm just going to flip this over like this and hold it in place. And then I'm going to make sure that this comes out. Like I said, you can use a pin, you can use a needle, but you just score that and it peels right off. Just take it easy with that. And you just peel all of the backing. For each of your little pieces. Now I opted to do fusible for this, but you could opt to do needle turn applique or any other applique method. All right, I have dots that are smaller, so I have 3 smaller dots, and I have 2 dots that are slightly bigger, and those go on the top of the shell. So I'm going to go ahead and take the paper off of those so that I can assemble the entire thing before I get started. And this includes the little head. I'm going to use this blue in what I call the outer border. So this quilt has 3 sections. This quilt, and thanks for asking the question, Tina. This quilt is a in center panel, which has the crab. Then it has the border one, which is the little wandering geese or the school of fish, whatever you want to call it. And then the final is the outer border, which has all of the sea creatures in it. And so I'm going to use this same fabric for the bottom panel, the top panel, and the side panels of my quilt. All right. So now I'm just going to take, and I need his little head. And I need the head that's going that way because this one's the opposite, so that's going to go on his other friend. And just use a pin to score that. It's the easiest way to do it. All right, so now that I have the head, I need to start assembling it. And I need to give myself some space at the top and at the bottom because what I don't want is for my turtle to be too close to the top and not centered. So that centered him right there. He's going to be kind of swimming uphill. I'm just going to align everything. I like using a wool mat because I can lay my pieces on here and then I can kind of hold them with pins. See how this keeps sliding? So what I can do here is just lay it where I want, pin it down like this, and it'll keep it from moving while I'm assembling everything. I've got a couple of big dots here and then 3 dots right here for his shell. And he has a little tiny thread that's sticking out. I'm just going to trim that. And I'm going to lay that here. Now I'm going to be using a really bright limey green. I could also use a white outline for this entire little turtle. And I think I like the way he's looking. I'm going to pull this out because it should be peeking out. And then I'm going to put this little fin down here so he looks like he's swimming. Now I'm going to pull my ruler and I'm going to lay my ruler down and I'm going to see how much space I'm taking with this. And so I see that at the bottom, I have about, from his bottom fin, I have about 1.5 inches. And then from his top, I have about 1.5 inches. And so he's fairly centered. If I want to, I could bring his head down just a hair like this, and that would give me the same amount of space at the bottom as I have at the top. So now that I have all of this, I can just go ahead and press. And when you have a lot of little pieces like this, it's better to heat up your iron really well. And then I'm going to use a couple more pins to kind of hold everything in place so he doesn't go anywhere. Like this, and then I'm going to bring the iron over, and as I press, I'm going to remove those pins out of the way. All right, that iron is smelling ready, and so I'm just going to lay the iron down. And so what I'm doing is I'm tacking it, and then I'm going to do this right here, and I'm going to press the iron, lay the iron down. You can lift it up, and then pull this out of the way and lay the iron in this segment. And so I'm really just letting the heat of the iron do all of the work. I'm not pushing the iron around. If you don't have blue for water, you can use any color you want. You can use yellow, you can use cream, you can use black. All right. So there I have it. And so I'm using this blue for mine. All right. And I like how he's looking. So far, so good. Now I'm going to go over to my machine and I'm going to sew lime green along this edge, because what I want it to do is I want it to stand out. And so I'm going to move all of these bits because this is going to be for my other turtle. And what I do with these is I keep them in a little, like a little composition book, and I just open the pages and I stuff all the little bits in here to keep them from floating around, especially when I'm running my fan in my sewing room. I have all my bits and I can just close it, and so they stay in this little blank composition book. And then I will keep my pattern in here so that I know that this is the next one I'm putting together. All right, so now that I have it, I can go over to the machine. And I'm just going to run, I have lime green in the center, in the needle, and then I have a lighter color in the bobbin. And so I'm just going to start right at the head, and I'm going to anchor that completely. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to start, but I'm also going to back tack. So I'm going to hold that. I'm going to drop my stitch length down to 1.9, and then I'm going to come in really slow like this, holding it, because I want to anchor that. And now I'm going to backtrack just 1 or 2 stitches to the shell, and then I can come forward, because what I don't want is for that thread to come unhooked from my little thing. And so now I'm just going to come through here. And if you notice, I left that, instead of cutting these pieces 10.5 by 10.5 and then sewing them together, I'm just using a full width of fabric. Now, you can make these pieces with different backgrounds. If you have like different creams or different blues or different colors, I think it would look really interesting if you built these panels that go on the outside of the quilt using different, like a scrappy layout. You could use a baby blue or maybe a yellow or a cream, and it's up to you, just something that contrasts with your little sea creatures. Because one of the things that I'm going to be restricted from doing now, because I'm going with such a single dark background, is I'm going to have to make sure that all of my little sea creatures now are lighter in color than what I originally thought I was going to do. But I'm trying to use what I have in my sewing room and not buy new fabric. And so now that I've come here to this end, I'm going to stop and I'm going to come just under the turtle shell so that I can start over here and you won't see my start and stop point. And so I'm going back where I went, where I started, and then right from there I'm going to lift my needle and I'm going to move it over 1 stitch, just like that. And that way you won't see, I'll be able to hide my starting and stopping point, because that's the goal. is not make it obvious where I'm starting and stopping. All right, so now I'm stopping there. I lift my needle and I pivot. And I stop there. And I'm going to come this way. And when I quilt this, I'm probably going to outline this again with some limey green quilting thread, because I'm going to quilt inside the center of this turtle using shades of green. I may do like a little bubble stitch or a little geometric, but it's going to be with lime green thread. All right. Then I get to the top of the shell. I'm going to come this way. And I just try, the smaller the stitch, the easier it is to kind of maneuver the little curves and not have it be so wiggly. And then slow down with your foot pedal. Definitely, if you have a slower speed on your machine, use the slowest speed that you can, just so that you get a nice, smooth, continuous line. This is not a speed game when you're working on a little applique like this. Then I go there and I backtrack one stitch and I can lift it up. And one of the things that I do like to do is I like to leave a long tail, because then I can take a needle and bury that on the other side. And so I will just pull this and I can do this again. And so I will take that and I'll show you what I've done. All right, can you guys see that? So now that I have this, I have these two long strings. I'm going to clip everything in the back. I've used a lighter thread so you can see. And this is just my bobbin thread. I'm going to untangle it all from there. All right. So bobbin thread is gone. And I'm going to take a needle and I'm going to push my top thread to the back. And I like doing that to anchor these, just so that down the road these don't come apart. It's not necessary. Some people literally just snip them off and use fray check. But I was taught a million years ago, and it still holds true today, that if you push them to the back and kind of tie them off in the back of the fabric, that they're less likely to come out. And that's been the case for me. So I'm just going to push it in, bring it to the back, and then I'm just going to go over here in the background and I'm just going to anchor it a couple of times. Just like this. I can come back over here and anchor it here. And all I'm doing is just making sure that my thread just doesn't come out and break. Tie a little knot, and now I can snip that thread. So anytime that I start and stop an applique or even a quilting, whenever I'm quilting, I leave a tail when I start and stop, and then I just bury that every time. Tina said, you want to see different colored backgrounds. Do you want me to take the pattern, Tina, and recolor it so that you can see what it would look like with different backgrounds? I can do that. If you would like for me to do that, you can put a message down below, or you can drop a comment in the chat if you would like me to recolor it and show you what it would look like with maybe a dark background, a light background, or even a scrappy background. It's up to you if you want me to do that. I should have time this week. All right, so now that I have that, and I've got that there, I tied a little knot, and I can get rid of that. Like I said, the only reason I do that is because I want my threads to stay and not come out. All right, so I have this top shell anchored. I haven't stitched this bottom or this little fin. So now when I come in here and I sew this, I'll come across, I'll sew the fin, come across, come across this fin, and then this way. And so then I will sew this bottom part. So anytime that you're sewing an applique, sew this biggest top piece on first. It anchors everything. Then you can come back and do the little details. And let me show you what that looks like before we do our eye. And then that's it for this little creature. So let me show you his eyeball. All right, so let me show you my machine. So I'm going to go over here. All right. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to go back tack just a hair. I'm going to come forward, and that'll ensure that my stitching doesn't come out with frequent washings. So anytime that I'm making a quilt, I think about how many times is somebody going to wash this quilt? Because what I want is for people who get my quilts to be able to use them. Like, even though these are art quilts, they're also utilitarian quilts. I want people to love them and use them and wash them. And so I want all the bits to stay in place, right? I'm going to come up here. I'm going to go back up to the top of the fin. I'm going to come along that stitch line that I've already added to that fin. And I'm literally going to sew over the top. And what that does is just kind of makes an extra thick stitching line. And I like how that ends up looking. It looks like you're using big, expensive threads, but it's literally just regular thread. And then so I'm going to come out one stitch. You're not even going to be able to see that. Then I'm going to come along the bottom of the fin and then back out. And what that does is it kind of hides your traveling lines. And somebody asked me to show this because they weren't sure how I finished these pieces. And so back to the inside of the shell. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did to the other guy, and I'm just going to pull him out like this. And by doing it this way, I'll be able to anchor those stitches and show you how I do it. Okay, so let me pull this down so you can see. So now you can see this has a double stitch across his fin. And you can see it. This has a single stitch, but I'm going to come back when I quilt this, and I'm going to put a lot of green emphasis on his little leg so you can see it. And then these pieces, if I wanted to snip them, I could, but I'm just going to bury them just like I did the other ones. All right. And then I just have the little eyeballs that I have to do. And I need a little bit of white. I have a little bit of white right here, and then I need some of this fusible on the back of this white. Remove my piece. Don't ever iron on top of your piece, because if you ever mess it up, you're going to be really sad. All right, so this is a little scrap of white. I just need to trim my fusible web so that it's smaller than this piece, which is like 2 inches by 2 inches. And I'm going to get 2 eyeballs out of that. This is the front. It has little dots. And this is the back. The dots are less subtle. I think I'm going to put the fusible web on the bright dot side so that they are not as obvious. And you can use whatever side of fabric you want to use. It's up to you. I got some gritty stuff on my iron. So if you ever get gritty stuff on your iron, you see how it's got some of that yucky stuff? All you need to do is use a little scrap of anything, like a scrap, I use a lot of times I just use a napkin, and I can scrub most of that stuff off with literally just a dry napkin with a hot iron. Just press it. If you can't get it off, sometimes you can put a little bit of your Zoom oil like you use on your sewing machine. Put a little drop on the napkin like that. And then you can iron it again and it gets all of that gunk off. There we go. It's coming right off. You ever see how it's coming off on this? All that brown stuff is coming off. And then sometimes an old dishcloth, and that's how I get all the gunk off my iron. Okay. So I have this. I need my little eyeballs. This is the same size as the pattern. That's why I have it over here by my sewing machine. And I'm just going to, I need 2 eyeballs, so I'm going to draw 2 of these. This is a little fine point Sharpie. I'm going to be cutting away that paper, so it doesn't matter that I use a Sharpie, but I just wanted you to see it. So that's the 2 eyeballs. And I'm just going to cut these out. Nice big eyes. All right, like this. All right, 2 little eyeballs, and now they're ready to get attached. Now, anytime that my iron has stuff like this, I usually keep napkins. This is just a little napkin. I'm going to press the napkin because I'm going to use that as a pressing cloth. And so this is just a kitchen napkin. And what I want to make sure is that I'm not getting any yucky stuff on these eyeballs. I can take this off. This has cooled enough for me to handle. And it releases the paper and you know that it's ready. That eyeball is too big. I should have cut more black off, and so I'm going to take and trim that eyeball because it's way too big. My poor little turtle looks like he's got some kind of medical condition that causes his eyes to bug out. Poor little thing. We're not going to do that to him. Okay, so now that I've trimmed that, there we go. Just a little bit too big. Now I can take this, or I've heated up my iron. I'm going to lay that on there, and I'm going to make sure that I'm not getting gunky stuff off my iron onto my piece. Anytime you're using a light piece, you got to watch that. All right. I'm just going to set my iron there. All right. And he's good and stuck. And now I'm going to sew around him. And so the same thing that I did with all these other stuff. And then I am ready to put a little eyeball. So one of the things that I can use is I can use a fabric marker. I can use one of those Micron archival ink pens, or I can embroider his eyeball. So I can do whatever I want here. I'm going to mark the location of his eye with this Micron archival pen. They come in different thicknesses. So you can see like this one is a 10, this one is an 8, and that's just the size. So a 10 is bigger, if you notice that. And then you can see the 8 is slightly smaller. So I'm going to use my 10, and I'm going to put my little eyeball in there because I'm going to come back in and I'm going to embroider over that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw the size eyeball that I want, and this is the size that I want. Make him slightly bug-eyed. And this is a permanent archival ink. So this is ink. And that'll stay through washes and washes and washes. And then what I can do is I can put a napkin on here and I can put the hot iron and that will set the ink. Does anybody have any questions about this turtle? And so that's what he looks like. And let me show you on my design wall where I'm going to put him. So you guys should be able to see the back. Let me move this camera. Let me see if you can see. So back here on my quilt, this is going to go across the bottom. And let me just show you, right? So this is going to get anchored across the bottom. I need one more of these panels to go across the top. And so I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me try to push this back so that it's smaller. Can you guys see it when I push it back? Is that better? Yes. So this guy is going to go. Let me get a couple of pins and show you where he's going to go. So this entire panel, I'm going to keep using it until we're done, is going to go all the way across the bottom. And of course, I'm going to trim off the excess because it's bigger than what I need. But this thing here, and I'm going to pin it so you can get an idea. And I'm going to get one more pin, move my chair out of the way so you guys can see. Can you guys see the bottom of that where I'm going to add him? I'm going to add him like this, and then I'm going to chop off the excess. So I have more than what I need because this is with the fabric. So I'm going to add 4 little sea creatures down here at the bottom, and then I'm going to sew him to the bottom and chop him off. And this other piece that I have, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it across the top. And so this piece, I'll start the same way. I'll start in the middle. I'll have a turtle, but I may move my turtle over to the far side. I may leave him in the center and just have him swimming the opposite direction. I haven't decided yet, but I might just leave him in the middle. And so Taylor the turtle is going down here, and then Taylor the turtle is going to go up here on this panel. Am I making sense how we're going to be building this quilt? This is going to look cute. And so that's how we're going to do it. Then when we're done with the bottom and the top panels, we will build the side panels. And so the same thing will happen. We will have 2 pieces put together that are going to do the side panels, and we'll finish it with that shell block that goes in the corner. And so that's it, friends. Super easy. I don't know if you guys have any other questions for me. This is fairly straightforward. I just wanted to give you guys lots of details, but this is what we're doing. We're working on the top and bottom panel, and then next time we're going to be adding the little fishies to that panel. So I'm going to be giving you the little fish patterns to add to the top and to the bottom, and I'm going to give you both of the fish patterns, okay? All right, friends, it is 6:40. I am done for tonight. I have to work tomorrow. I know some of you guys do too. Please put some questions in the comments. Let me know if you have any questions. I will recolor this because Tina said she wanted to see what other colors might look like. Tina, I have a stack of fabric here. I think for your ocean, you could do just about any color. So let's say you had a purple and you wanted to do purple. I think the ocean would look okay if you did it in purple. It's up to you. I also have like a medium blue, like this color. So if I wanted, these are all colors that I considered for the ocean, as a matter of fact. If I wanted to do it in an aqua, you can do it in an aqua. If you have a baby blue, I actually have grunge here in a blue. So if I wanted to do like this color grunge, that would be okay. And I have 10.5-inch squares of this, so I almost considered doing these for my fabric, but I decided on the deep teal because I had already done it here, and it kind of looks like the ocean. Even though at first I thought it was snakeskin, I went ahead and decided that I was going to switch out my blues for that one because originally I was going to do it in this color. But then I changed my mind. I decided that this bright aqua is a much better choice after having seen the border go up. All right, everybody, that's it. I think this is going to be cute. I hope that you guys consider turning in quilt projects that you create on this channel to quilt shows. We had another Jelly Roll Club member just won 3rd place at a Calgary show. If you guys saw that on the website, it was gorgeous. She finished the Mystery Stars quilt, and she did that for a quilt show. So if you have quilts out there, finish them up, turn them in. I promise you will win an award because these quilts are really fun and they're very different. All right, everybody, don't forget to share the channel with your friends, give it a thumbs up, and keep supporting the channel so I can keep making more free stuff for you guys. Thanks so much. You guys have a wonderful week. Thank you. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.